on a Monday night.
Thank God Ross had other things to do. Twice. No, not twice. Every night last week. I was going to record. I was happy to record on Monday.
I know.
Like,
I know.
Ross. Oh no, it's too hot. It's too hot. We can't record a podcast. The temperature's too warm.
Well, just the recording equipment surely would have just packed in because it's 26 degrees inside your house.
I'll tell you what it is, Sam. How can he possibly bend down to plug it in?
I know that is a real factor,
it's hard enough.
It?
It's hard enough when it's not warm. All right, I'm gonna start recording. Let's start the recording and then we can do the spiel.
This is how the sausage is made.
I've got something. We've got something. I'm sure there's something on the back burner.
So I've got my fifth one written for my spin-off.
Seditious Break-Off podcast.
Mm-hmm. So
it's about states' rights, the podcast. It's not about slavery. It's about states' rights.
That's a deep cut joke.
Yeah, I'm trivializing the Civil War.
No, I'm just... Well, that as well. But I meant, you just really... It's very specific. I'd have to really think about what you meant by that. And then I'm like, oh, yeah. Nice.
It's one of those jokes that's kind of designed
intellectual
exclusively for you or for Joe.
Yeah.
And nobody else in the entire world would understand.
People who study the same course in university. That's how cool we are.
I know. Right, let's do timers, and we can. I've got a bit. You can tell me about your podcast in a second. On this podcast, it's a whole thing.
Oh yeah, I'll be using this. I'll be exploiting the outrageous success.
Dozens and dozens of listeners historically. Dozens of individual downloads.
We've got 4,500 downloads of this podcast in total.
Considering we've never ever pushed it anywhere, that's pretty good.
And a noticeable uptick of downloads. That's good. Still small, relatively.
Yeah, but considering that, we can account for, I can personally account for, maybe 100 of them of people I've specifically told to listen to the podcast, and that maybe 100 if I'm being massively generous.
There's definitely people
and that my friends haven't listened to only 5 episodes each, in which case it's more like 15 downloads.
Yeah.
45?
45. Colt 45.
Works every time.
Sorry.
It doesn't work every time. It's a lie.
It doesn't work. I thought you meant 40, 20, so 20, 30, 39.
You thought I meant in 6 minutes.
No. Yes, I thought you meant.
Fuck, mate.
I'm tired. Leave me alone. Was I recording? I was, yeah.
So, Mrs. Maisel, which I've been watching, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, really, really good. And do you know what do you know what it's done? I want to watch stand-up. I never want to watch stand-up because white men talking about being white men is not. There's only so far you can let out that rope.
And look at us.
I know, but we're not doing jokes about how much we hate our wives.
What's the deal with peanuts?
What's the deal with airplane food?
The little bag, the little bit. So it's a shame that Jerry Seinfeld has been reduced just down to that joke. But it's
that joke, and he did go out with a 17-year-old when he was about 40. He's reduced to those two things.
Why are men awful? You're like, Jerry Seinfeld. He's a pioneer of. Oh nope. As we've mentioned in the last 3 weeks, I think. Scroll down. It's the Wikipedia personal life check. Oh no, scroll down, personal life. Oh shit. I can't respect this man anymore. Damn it.
It's tough, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah.
But I have a bit here.
Anyway, Miss Maisel.
You'll remember years and years ago that Ross wrote a stand-up routine. It's annoying Ross isn't here because I feel like Ross would have more on this. Which I think he did once at an open mic night. I don't think it went terribly, terribly well. But you know how everyone, especially white men, think they're hilarious. And we are. white men.
Yes, please don't attack my core beliefs.
Two other white men. It's a whole industry. Like it's a self-sustaining economy. White men consuming white men media made by white men.
Round and round.
For white men. Round and round. Discrimination flying off everywhere. It's a whole thing. But I've been watching Mrs. Maisel, which again is excellent. Tony Shalhoub. Do you know what? I'd missed Tony Shalhoub. He's so funny. His comedic timing is. Everyone else in the TV show is really, really good. Like I can't.
Oh, he's the guy who gets his head blew off in Men in Black, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's in Galaxy Quest as well.
Yes.
And
does he get his head blown off in Galaxy Quest?
No, he is shagging some weird alien with tentacles, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone in this show is really good, and obviously he's not the main character; he's the dad of the main character.
But, is it Rachel Brosnahan?
Yeah, and she's phenomenal. She's really, really, really good.
Maisel,
it's kind of like a Fleabag vibe to it. It's that she's a stand-up comedian in the late 50s, a Jewish stand-up comedian in the late 50s, because not that much has changed. Yeah. And a rich Jewish stand-up comedian in the 1950s.
But a woman, that's different.
But a woman. And her comedy is kind of like that self-deprecating, like, my life is so horrible comedy. And she's really, really good at that. There's a real Fleabag vibe to it. But what I kind of like, not upsets me at all, I think it adds to the TV show. But I find myself, when Tony Shalhoub isn't on the screen, I find myself wondering where he is and why I'm not sick. Because he's so good. He's so funny. And he's playing everything dead.
Where's Mr. Shalhoub? Why aren't we talking about Mr. Shalhoub?
Exactly. He's playing this mathematics professor. He's so straight-laced, but it's just... God, the man, he's phenomenal. It's so funny. But it's made me think about stand-up, so I spent like the last 5 days basically just making up shit jokes in my head and thinking, I should write that down, and then checking myself and going, no, that's not funny. No one will find that funny.
Well, give me one.
White men.
Come on.
White men.
I'm a primed audience. I'm also your friend, and we pretty much are the same person, so I should be killing myself. If I laugh, you know it's a bad joke.
All right. Okay. So,
what's the deal?
I was thinking about Star Trek because, again, I'm a white man. I can't stress enough how stereotypical a white man I am in my 30s. So I was thinking about Star Trek, and my sister, who's disabled,
you suck. Sorry, I'm just preparing you for.
Watches a lot of Big Bang Theory.
Right, go on.
This is just to preface why I was thinking about the Big Bang Theory.
Okay.
There's quite a few plot lines in that where these nerdy guys, and we've talked about the Big Bang Theory, referred to our episode on that for the historical record, and we don't have to have that conversation again. I love having a podcast. But in that TV show, it's like quite frequently showing that the characters kind of have this they think nothing's sexier than like a woman in a Star Trek uniform or a woman dressed as like a Battlestar Galactica character.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking is there something wrong with me where do you know what's really sexy? A naked woman. Especially with this stereotypical nerdy men who don't know any women and never have sex. I'm like, why are you adding layers? Why are you adding why isn't the pinnacle of having sex with an actual human woman the fact that she's got no clothes on? Why is the pinnacle instead oh my god, she's wearing the Star Trek outfit? I'm like, yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure it's sexy, but also,
it's interesting.
Let's not wear the Star Trek uniform.
Yeah, it's interesting on I wonder what series she's picked. Oh look, I think that's the one. That's the
exactly.
Is it the Troy one, or is she going full Crusher?
Thinking about how accurate the Star Trek uniform is, and then I'm thinking about the quality of the uniform. Is it woven? Is it made with blah blah blah?
Do we have accurate pips?
Is it breathable? Is it really sweaty? That's going to be, what the pip situation like? It's a whole thing, right? Now, I was thinking about this because I work manually all day, so my brain is just off, and part of the Mrs. Maisel show is the process by which comics refine a joke, and it's kind of and that in itself, and Seinfeld as well is a good example of this. Of you sort of start with a nugget of a thing, and then we get Jerry standing up on the stage at the end doing the final bit, and it makes you think about how there's humor in that. However, if you got up and did that on a stage, you probably need to actually hit the funny points in a in a performance-y way, whereas I didn't there because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing, is going through the process of thinking there's something funny in that. There's But again, to no avail. Except I am a white man, so I do have a ready-made audience out there.
You
And
have
pretty
you have
much
the confidence of a white
of a
man.
much
Absolutely.
more attractive man. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I think there is. I'm very interested in this. Not that I want to be a stand-up comedian, but I do think there is something in refining your thoughts, like taking something that is, oh, that would be cool, and actually putting the work and effort into drilling it down into creating something. Like that's a cool
That's
process.
coherent as well. It's not just like rambles.
See, with comedy
Like this
though,
podcast. Just imagine the opposite of this podcast.
imagine the opposite of this conversation right now. But there is something funny about like when it's with stand up, it's also about like the jokes per minute thing. And you know, like your bit there, it's funny. I thought that was funny. But when you look at stand up comedians, there has to be laughs every 20, 30 seconds. Like you can't, if you're building up to something, you need to intersperse that with enough red meat for the audience to not get bored, obviously, but also to keep laughing because they're paying to see comedy or whatever. And it's like, and that's
if you're doing story comedy, especially, you've got to kind of like have several. That's what I'm talking about. The
like more preamble, say, look,
exactly.
I don't,
What's the deal with people in Star Trek costumes?
Yeah, let's not. I'm not going to shock you. I'm not going to surprise you right now. I don't get a lot of sex. That I know. It's shocking. It's a shocking thing. It's something that you could say, Dave, and I think would be very funny and accurate.
No, you are absolutely right. And that's
like you got to build it. You got to wind them up.
About the self-deprecating like part of that, and that's what appeals to me about Mrs. Maisel. I think is that is exactly the sort of comedy that, do you know what I mean? Just kind of makes sense to me. And then watching them go through the process, and it's quite a funny, well put together scripted TV show that's funny in of itself outside of the stand-up bits. Like I just think is a real triumph to them to then also have the process, and not obviously like fantastically true to life. She does get up on stage a lot with no prior preparation and be really, really funny, which I'm not sure. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a very rare person that is capable of that.
Yeah.
In front of an audience, especially in front of a drunk audience. Especially in the 1950s when you're a woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, there's a point there that is different from everything else. Yeah, it's very interesting. I would like to see you become a stand-up comedian. I think you'd be very good.
The trouble is, I'm so neurotic that I think like every show would have to be perfect. Every show would have to be, or I'd kill myself. I'd be like, well, that was the worst thing. I've just embarrassed myself, unlike everyone who knows me.
Laugh at me right now, or I will blow my brains out on the stage.
It's also hecklers. It's also hecklers. Like I could probably come up with like a 10-minute set, that wasn't not funny. That it would get some laughs. But I think that if someone like interrupted the flow of that, do you know what I mean? It's a bunch of spinning plates, and I think that's also a skill, isn't it? To like keep the plate spinning while some's calling you a loser. And you're like, well, you're the one who fucking came here to see stand-ups, mate.
I know. I love watching heckler videos as much as because, obviously, like if you were new, it would be a challenge. But also, you're the one with the microphone. Like you have the power. You have the power in this situation. And if you're confident, and there was one I watched, I can't remember, it was on Reddit or whatever. And basically the guy said, he's like, okay, carry on. You think you're going to win? Yeah. I do this for a living. Every night I deal with people who are less funny than me. Just hundreds of them, audiences of them. And it's like, you're not going to win. I'm going to come up with something funny. So you go ahead. You carry on. Say something. And then whatever he responds with, the entire place just dies of laughter and he's completely embarrassed, this total drunk idiot. And you think, like, that must be a good feeling of just fucking shut up, put him down. Like,
you wonder how much of it is like, because it is good when a comedian like slaps a heckler down. But like, you've got to imagine, maybe 90% of the people who go into a comedy show, they aren't gonna, unless they are horrendously pissed. They're not there to heckle, No. Especially when you've paid to see somebody at a show. This is what always baffles me.
Yeah,
like, are they a plant? Like, you paid to see Jimmy Carr in concert. You have bought a ticket. You have gone to the concert to see Jimmy Carr. Why are you heckling him?
Because you're forgetting the very thing.
He's a tax evader. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, the Jimmy Carr, fuck you. You're forgetting the very thing that you started with, which is they're all white guys too. They think they're funny. They think they're literally as funny as a professional touring comedian.
It's always a white guy.
Every time. Every time.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. That's what's been diverting my attention from the monotony of life.
I like the energy. I look forward to your stand-up career taking off and ultimately surpassing this podcast and anything else that the rest of us managed to achieve. Wouldn't
take much at this point. I mean, we can see the little zero watchers in the corner. It's fine. I literally, like, if I had a slightly more successful stand-up themed podcast, I mean, that would be exceeding our current
yeah, but then you would.
Podcast.
But if we had a stand-up podcast, we would be adding to the plethora of stand-up podcasts that exist. I know we're adding. I know there's.
In terms of stand-up though, stand-up is all about being in a club with an audience. Surely, like that's the entire.
You think so?
That it's the audience reaction is what makes stand-up funny. Like obviously stand-up's funny, but like it's like Friends. If you remove the laughs, like suddenly a lot of things that were funny aren't funny anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly all.
I think that's true of
mostly all the transphobia in Friends. Jesus Christ,
and homophobia.
Jesus.
Don't forget.
And sexism and racism. Oh no,
all
they're
the
not,
characters.
There's not so much.
Wildly. Well, there's no
racism.
There's no minorities in the show whatsoever.
Just white people. Yeah. Other than
the closest they get is that Ross and Monica are half Jewish. And they can't even be properly. They can't even just be Jewish.
And they have Ross's girlfriend in the late season, don't they? Like late show. They have Ross's girlfriend. Yeah.
Saying that, what show isn't guilty of that? I mean, Seinfeld is, if anything, even worse.
God, yeah. God, Seinfeld actually. Is there any? Like, I feel like it's a little bit. Is there any?
In that show? There's the Red Saab guy. In the Puerto Rico Day Parade, that's a black guy driving that who's arguing with Jerry. Jackie Childs, Kramer's lawyer, is black, but there's not a lot. There's a whole episode where Elaine thinks she's dating a black guy, if you remember, and he thinks he's dating a Latina woman, and then they're like, oh, well, what? So we're just a couple of white folk? And she's like, yeah. He's like, do you want to go to the Gap or something? Because that's what white people did in the 90s as opposed to now where we have podcasts.
Yeah, that was...
do you want to go and do a podcast or something?
do you want to go to the Gap and just like hang around at the Gap? And I don't have any money, so I'm not going to be buying anything at the Gap. Yeah, like when shopping was a recreational thing before.
When you could go into like an actual store.
Yeah. Those were the days when rampant capitalism had absolutely no consequences. Like that was, when children in Bangladesh were making your clothes as they are today, but you didn't know about it, so you didn't really, you didn't feel bad about it.
Online from your toilet. You don't have to go out to a fucking shop.
Completely detached
with the general public,
and put in the delivery note, please leave at porch. Do not knock door.
Do not make contact with me. You are not.
COVID was just a great excuse for that.
Do you know what the thing though, Sam? Do you know what the trouble though is though, Sam? I live in bumfuck nowhere, so I know all the delivery drivers by name.
That's your choice for not living in a bustling metropolis like I do, which is actually a small suburb.
It's nice. Because I know if a parcel's been delivered, if I pass the every woman driving the opposite direction, because she always waves. Hi, every delivery woman.
She waves as she has your parcel in a van because you weren't
in the river.
No, she's like, bye, no. See you tomorrow.
Oh no, Sam. Things just get left on the doorstep, and that's fine. We've never had an issue.
Craziness, absolute craziness. Someone could have stolen that and sold it for drugs within minutes of where I used to live.
No, the trouble is, Sam, there's nothing in my village. There's just houses. So there's nothing here. There's no youth element because there are no youths.
Said the oldest man in the world. Youth.
I'm the youngest person in my village.
Literally.
I might be close to the youngest like adult. There were some teenagers. Who were
Oh
still
yeah,
at
there's
school,
kids. Yeah, but as an
like,
adult,
and
yeah.
kids, but I think I'm definitely on the because it's all like young families or retired people. So yeah, kind of. I think there's some of the guys, one or two of the sons across the road, my age or ish.
Well, hold on. So let's go back. Let's just rewind a moment. So you're the youngest person in your village, presumably in 20 miles. You know, because you live in the 18th century. Hold on.
I live 2.5 miles outside of a city
Sure,
of
sure.
15,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Ripon being the most technical city, just because it's got a cathedral.
Hey! I think you shut your mouth, Sam. It's only the 4th smallest city in the country.
Oh, there we go. Carlisle
One of those
as well.
is City of London.
Okay.
Carlisle is like
Number 2.
6 times the size of Ripon.
But my point was, you're the only young person in the village, and you're being picky about women dressed in Star Trek clothes. Like, Jesus Christ, Dave, you can't. Beggars can't be choosers.
Picky, Sam.
You are being picky.
My point is that
No. Let me
beggars
finish.
being choosers.
Let me finish. If Wharflands next to your house.
Whoa.
Right.
If Michael Dawn's in the village, Sam, of course I'm aroused as all get out. Like, there's no question there. All right.
I was going to go Janeway, but I thought actually no. I think dwarfs are much more attractive. Like those ridges, I just can't. Oof. No, just please murder me dead. Like, come on.
I'm not saying, Sam. My point wasn't that people in Star Trek costumes aren't attractive. That wasn't my point. My point was that surely a person's more attractive without anything on. Surely that's the root of the joke.
Yes. I'm going to stop there.
What I'm saying is Michael Dawn but a bat left.
Okay.
Just saying.
Oh.
You know, is that better than a scratchy polyester suit?
Damn. We're streaming this on the internet.
I know. Oh.
I was gonna continue with that train of thought, and then I thought, we're streaming this on the internet, so I'm gonna stop. Right.
Good.
Right now.
Your children may one day watch this.
I know. This is my legacy to them.
Oh, Dad's gone. However,
look at this one. Look at this one.
350 episodes of him talking about Klingon dicks.
Yeah, that's our
our legacy from our father.
That's our spin-off podcast right there. But look, they'll be going, look at this. Oh, look, it's Dad's old YouTube channel from 50 years ago. Oh, look, how many views? Oh, 12. Wow, that many.
Wow, Dad was a real big shot back in the day.
Before the Moisture Wars hit, 12 is quite a lot now.
One of our more recurring jokes, I think.
That's our canon, isn't it? That's one of our canon. So basically, the idea that
in the Moisture Wars, yeah.
The Moisture Wars, yeah. I'll be the the 4th hydrating battalion.
I kind of imagine they'll all be named after reservoirs. Like I'll be,
H2. Oh no, you don't.
The meme battalions. Yeah, could happen. The government ran a poll to see what we want to call our battalions. It's battalion face.
That and a chirpy buy water bonds, buy moisture bonds campaign.
Oh, I wish I had some music lined up for like war bond videos. Exactly. Marvel's going to sue us, Sam. Have you seen Captain America? They will sue us. Like that. Disney owns them. They're really litigious.
Disney don't fuck about. Did you know that Disney?
Look, Mouse, because I haven't got anything.
Have you seen the new Winnie the Pooh thing? It's a Winnie the Pooh horror movie, full on 18+ horror movie. Yeah, it's real. It's real because
it's under the public domain now, isn't it?
Well, one depiction of Winnie the Pooh is under public domain. Disney,
as long as they don't infract on any of the other stories.
No, Disney. No. Well, Disney's design of Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin Disney, and like that.
Yeah.
That version is still under because. Like Malibu Stacy, they just slap a new hat on him every 75 years. Well, but she's got a new hat. It's like, copyright law. Look, he's got a new hat. And then that means that they can renew it. But also, Disney have copyrighted every single instance separately of Mickey Mouse to basically prevent...
Even the racist 30s cartoons.
Oh, yeah. But that one's the one that's at risk. There is, I think, a law there is something happening.
I did read something about Mickey Mouse, maybe.
Eventually, he's coming up to the age where
it's weird how copyrights work with characters like that, because Sherlock Holmes is similar, where something like the first 2/3 of the Sherlock Holmes stories are public domain, and then because there was a lawsuit with this new one of the new TV shows they'd done. We talked about it on the podcast, in fact, before a podcast. But yeah, it's interesting. So anyway, Winnie the Pooh horror film.
Yeah.
It's just Winnie the Pooh, but you consider the fact that there's all these animals in the woods, and Eeyore's a suicidal donkey, and that's very depressing. And all
Winnie
that.
the Pooh, Blood and Honey. There's an upcoming.
I thought this was a meme. I'd seen it and I thought it was a joke.
No, it's not. And it's if you Google it. In fact, let's see if I can show you on the screen using my powers of share screen. Here we go. Entire screen share. Look at that.
Look at
that.
Yeah, that's what I'd seen. But again, I just assumed that was like something someone had mashed up as like a joke.
No, it's not. And it's because you have
look at all those non-hyperlinked names.
Yeah, so basically anything that looks like that Winnie the Pooh is fine.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at this Winnie the Pooh, the old drawings from
the books.
Is it A.A. Milne or something? Is it? Yeah, A.A. Milne.
Yeah.
Then no, that's it. So it became public domain.
That's amazing. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
I bet it's going to be terrible. We should do it for the podcast.
We should. Oh, a bit trippy here. Let's turn this off. So there we go. Insight, facts, knowledge.
I do something. There is something like really. What's the word? Bloodthirsty, not bloodthirsty. Just because I'm thinking of the Winnie the Pooh thing. Cutthroat about like the second something hits public domain, someone's like, right, we can make a film for $14, and then but it will be a search term. Winnie the Pooh, great. Winnie the Pooh is a fantastically famous character. We won't make any money. We won't make loads of money, but they'll make a few million on just because it's Winnie the Pooh, the novelty of it. And the first person to do that makes money, and nobody else does.
And I bet that had a budget of under 5 million, way under 5 million, probably.
Oh yeah. What do you need? A guy in a bear costume, and then basically just shoot 4 scenes and edit The Hills Have Eyes, and cracking, you've got a film.
Lots of stock footage. You can still see the.
What's you could do found footage, Sam. Ooh, you could make this for like $150, like legitimately. And I.
There's actually like
horror film.
Here we go. Let's workshop this a little bit, because like a bear that can talk. Number one, bit weird. He's got loads of friends that live underground, so you think getting pulled into Tigger's cave, or the rabbit's not Tigger, the rabbit getting pulled in. Eeyore, much slow moving. Like there is a mind there, isn't there, to be delved of like this could be scary. This could be scary.
All children's media is kind of like you're only about a step away from like the most horrible shit you can imagine with any. If you consider the ramifications of any kid's property, like Paw Patrol, there's a horror show of a world and a concept in a second.
Yeah. Well, the worst one is by far Cars.
Sorry, yeah, Cars.
No, Postman Pat. Although Postman Pat previous episode, me and Ross trudged through the Cars. Cars is fucking horrific. My favourite example of this.
I recently watched Cars 2, which is the James Bond one.
Dreadful. Just dreadful.
Not making this up. I'm not making this up.
But the thing with there's one car in Cars that is a what do you call it? Like a minibus, not minibus, like a family car. I don't know. Anyway, it's got a mattress on top, roped down.
Yeah.
Who's that for? Who's the mattress for, Dave? Who is the mattress for?
Sam, what I find more disturbing about this is the fact that the cars are cars, the forklifts are also cars, but they can't walk. The tractors aren't cars; they're cows.
I know.
We have planes, and the planes also talk, and they carry the cars around.
Don't forget
boats, and the boats aren't cars, but they're also sentient somehow. Like, are we dealing with like a Transformers type world?
There's the mad combine harvester thing as well that tries to eat them in one of the films. It's like, and also the other thing, who built all these roads? And who built these stadiums? None of these stadiums are ergonomically designed. So did the cars take over? Is this like the future where humans have died out and the cars are through nuclear radiation have gained sentience?
Radiation, because that's how radiation works.
And then the final point is, what happened to all the people? Are there dead people behind Lightning McQueen's eyes? I don't know.
This is what the animators were. I was reading about Cars 2 because it's honestly one of the worst films I've ever seen.
You were doing what is
my
appropriate.
life and all life around me. And reading the production, basically, the reason that the eyes are in the windscreen, because like if you look at a car, the way that they do the mouth and things, it should be the headlights, really.
Yeah, it should be.
But they thought, we don't really want to draw attention to the fact that there are seats in these cars, and like the cars are for people. So they put the eyes in the windscreen as it was like a convenient way to not have you really question why they are cars with
some skeleton with its fingers still grasped around the steering wheel with the massive helmet on inside Lightning McQueen, who's been stuck there for 2,000 years. Like,
Good thing these cars solved the global warming crisis, though.
I know. But then I do think, so is there like cars like with petrol? Do they have
in the second one, Sam?
Have we got car oil refineries?
In the second one, the plot is that there's this car who was exploring the interior of Africa, ran out of fuel, had to make his own biofuel, left the interior of Africa. I'm fairly sure that's the term they use in the film. And then has himself like transformed into an electric car. There's a put pin in that we can circle back, right? And then heads a company to try and convince everyone to become an electric car because fuel is bad.
The
end of the film is that fuel is good and that biofuel is bad and electric is bad. And also that this car was lying all along. No, pretty much. Basically, this guy is like...
So this guy's a baddie. The electric car guy is the baddie. Just like Elon Musk, obviously, but go on.
Exactly. That is the direct sort of thing. And he's promoting this biofuel, which he's laced with something. Which it's amazing. He has laced it with something so that he can blow up racing cars that are using this fuel and tank the stocks of this fuel to sell more actual fuel. It's the oil company like being like, oh yeah, we'll it's fine. And the way that the hero wins is that the pit crew are like, wow, biofuel's bullshit. We'll just put proper fuel in. That's the way that they win. Fuel.
Wow.
Buy petrol. Buy petrol.
It adds to my theory that the Cars franchise, which is one of the most successful merchandise franchises, like 10 billion by itself. But anyway,
again, Sam, you just get loads of Hot Wheels toys and put sticker eyes on them.
Completely.
Sold.
But the Cars franchise is like Pixar's like redneck phase, and now they're making they made Inside Out, and they made Soul, and they made Turning Red, like woke movies, as it were. Which is
introspective.
Yeah, like right-wing people would describe. Oh, here comes Pixar with their wokeness, right? But I think Cars is like the red meat to these people because you've got number one NASCAR.
Yeah. It's the McDonald's hamburger, isn't it?
you've got the cars, and then I don't think I've actually ever seen number 2 all the way through. I cannot believe that they would, like, even in 2000 or whatever that was, that they were like literally demonizing electric cars, which for many years have been considered, well, we better move to them at some point, otherwise we're going to destroy, like, what do we want? Cars with petrol or cars? Oh yeah, you want cars with petrol? Cool. Here, look at this oil tanker, completely devouring the oceans, little fish cars, presumably.
That movie's really insane as well, because it basically stars Larry the Cable Guy, if you remember him from 10,000 years ago, who's famous for doing redneck movies, basically.
Yeah.
He stars Larry the Cable Guy and Michael Caine. Is it Michael Caine?
It is Michael Caine. Yeah. It is
yeah, and that in a James Bond themed movie about sentient cars. ? And it made money. There's a third one. There's a fucking spin-off. There's a cartoon series.
Cars 2 is considered like, this is where Pixar died a little bit. And they are coming back. I have to say, though, many, many Pixar movies, they're boring as fuck. They're boring as fuck. Soul, dull. Dull. Compared to what Walt Disney Animation is chucking out, like Encanto, which, despite the fact that I've seen it hundreds of times.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you should watch it. It's really good.
I watched Luca. Is that Disney?
No, that's Pixar as well. Again,
but that was very good.
It's good, but it's a little bit like, come on, cut the fat. Let's just get moving. Like compared to
I loved that movie. I really didn't have many problems with that at all.
Yeah, I just think they're a little bit
learning about kids' TV as you. Maybe the 18th watch really crystallizes how many minutes you could have.
Oh, you've never enjoyed a film unless you've watched it at 5:30 in the morning, 3 days in a row. Just that is how you experience media.
I mean, I've done that with Goodfellas. That says more about my own personal dementia than anything else.
That'll focus your critical mind in ways you didn't know was possible. But it is. I am interested in. I like the business of Disney and the business of Pixar. I think it's very interesting, and I think when you look at how, I feel like Walt Disney Studios versus Pixar is becoming more and more. They're capturing the zeitgeist a little bit more than I think Pixar, which owned the 2000s, like from Toy Story to Monsters Inc., Incredibles.
Other people, and I'm not including Disney in this big sweeping thing because they own everything, but it's good to have, like, obviously different companies making things. It kind of maybe encourages more creativity. I mean, see the Marvel fucking amorphous blob that's taking over all media. Mm-hmm. But, like, I kind of wish we had more content creators who weren't Netflix, who seemingly, like, I'm just going to say it right here on the air, I think Netflix will be out of business in the next 5 years, like, without a shadow of doubt, because they are hemorrhaging subscribers. They've got no decent original content, and their response to that, like any good company who knows what's what, their response to that is to start squeezing the subscribers they still have.
Well, they've squeezed us to the inch of our life already. If they say it's going up again, I'm going to be like, listen, family, I know there's like 30 people all logged into this Netflix account. Hey, and Netflix is like, maybe give us a bit of money. Absolutely not. But if they come
this is it. By cracking down on that, though, what that's going to mean is, right, so I have somebody who shall remain nameless, who uses my Netflix and fucking has for the last 10 years because they're a...
Ross!
Yeah, right. And if it comes to like, oh, it's £3 so that Ross can watch it, I mean, be like, well, either give me the £3, Ross, or get your own Netflix, basically. Well, I don't know why I should have... Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure that's thousands of millions
it's more that. It's more that.
Like, and then I might also think, well, actually, if I can't fucking go away for the weekend and watch Netflix while I'm away without jumping through 1,000 hoops because of their things, I'm like, well, I'll cancel it. I don't watch Netflix. Is probably the least watched of the streaming services. Actually,
it is now. It is now. And even the kids have moved. Disney is mostly Disney, bit of YouTube, Amazon for like occasional. It has like an exclusive. It's still there, Netflix, but I do think like.
I'm telling you, within 5 years they will have been acquired by somebody, or they'll be out of business. I just don't think it's
Because
sustainable.
they're barely
Like,
profitable. It's only the last few years they've actually been profitable because of the amount
they're
of.
like they're like a big bank, basically. Like eventually they will become. Eventually you've got to make money. Like they've been this massive investment fund for 15 years, and they've grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. But like eventually you've got to get a profit.
Mm, yeah, it's quite funny because they're doing exactly what Blockbuster did. Like the slow death of Blockbuster, which Netflix destroyed, and
Netflix
with
destroyed,
mail with like
with the
DVDs in the post. I know. It's like
So
unbelievably.
quaint.
I know.
No, we're not talking about
anachronistic.
1904, children. We're talking about 2005.
I used $1 and I got a penny stamp and a two-way ticket to New York with that much. Like it's completely. And then I watched There's Something About Mary. And it's just like Netflix is just repeating the same mistakes, and it's because they're under pressure because they over leverage. I think if I was a company, and obviously they need the finance and stuff, I would resist investment that I couldn't control. Like, or they went public and all that stuff. You think, like, why do that? Why take the control away so that you
Ultimately, I
have
think
to
that,
deal?
like, the people involved, yes, the investors might not have really made any money, although I don't know that for certain. But I guess, like, if you worked for Netflix, and I think most of the people that did work for Netflix when they became very, very big, they were, they've been paid, they've made money. Like, suddenly your salary quadruples. You're like, well, more investment. If this is going to continue, this trend continues, I will just continue shoving money into suitcases under my bed until it explodes, at which point I'll go and get a job somewhere else. And I think maybe that is why you keep taking the investment, because you're like, well, I can start fucking, Betflix. No, sorry, Betfed's probably got like a thing on that. I can start Neelix next year. My own Star Trek themed streaming service. But you know what I mean? Like
Tuvix.com.
we can start another Netflix. Like I think a lot of these startups suffer from this. But like if someone's willing to pay us now, even if we fucking explode in a year, like they'll have paid us. And that's shitty and not a good way to do business for anyone, except the people who are getting paid.
But the content's moving away anyway, isn't it? Because they're all going to their own street, Paramount Plus and Disney Plus.
That's not sustainable either. I mean, in America,
I'm not paying for Paramount Plus. Nah. Like
I've got it, and I will watch the new series of Discovery, and then I'll cancel it, and I'll get it next year when the new season of Discovery is on it. Except by then they'll presumably have figured out that no one's paying for it, and they'll probably license it out because they'll make more money that way.
Yeah, that's what we should all do, isn't it? We should really just, and in a lot of ways, sharing out your passwords for Disney and Netflix is what we do. Means that. Like you kind of have to have that awkward conversation. Someone texts you saying, Netflix isn't working. You're like, yeah, I've cancelled it. Like, sorry, now you have to pay for it if you want to go. I kind of feel bad about that. But
listen, I can't remember what your last name is, so I think maybe you've had your fucking fill at the Dave Trough of streaming TV. Thanks.
Get a job.
Ross had this because despite the fact he uses my Netflix, I'm on his Spotify family account. I mean, if presumably Spotify and Netflix aren't as litigious, but I'm on his Spotify family account because I don't know how many people you get on it, but basically, Amy's brother broke up with his girlfriend or something, and she got booted off it, and Ross was like, "So we've got an opening," and I was like, "Great, cracking." I'm moving up the chains. This is the lowest level of social influence.
Ross is like, Dave, I'm here to. I'm really. Thanks so much for meeting with me.
I've been pushed.
Thanks so much for taking your time today. I really appreciate your time. That tie's a snappy tie. But now listen, Dave, I'm here today with a proposal. Now, before you say anything else, I really need to this is time limited. This is time limited. We need to press this today. It must be pressed today. For just a mere payment of £17 a month. Just £17 a month. You yourself can have access to my family account. Now, yes, you might think that sounds like the price of a family account by itself. That might be true. But what you're really getting is peace of mind. Peace of mind that my family account will...
Well, I think the conversation actually went, Sam. Now listen, Dave. You got Netflix in 2011 when we lived together. right? 11 years ago. In 2017, I think Ross was like, "Oh, well, we've got this Spotify thing." So I think having already had 6 years of free Netflix, like you can literally put a figure on that. That's what it was. It used to be what, $5 a month
I think about maybe £80 a month average.
a year.
So yeah, £480.
I mean, in fairness, you split that right down the middle. Suddenly, that Spotify family account doesn't look unreasonable, does it?
Not bad. Not bad at all. Well, I think there's maybe maybe you need to find other ways to recoup some of your cash back from Ross.
I had someone on my Netflix for years, about 2 years. This account just appeared, called Amira, and obviously I'm a white guy, so I don't know anyone called Amira. And it was just an account. Someone was obviously hacked into my Netflix somehow and was just watching Netflix. Anyway, and I'm like, well, live and let live. It's not bothering me. It's not telling me that I'm not getting robbed. And then after 2 years, for some reason, they tried to, and they'd been watching stuff. It's not like it got hacked and then they sat on it.
Were you curious to see what they were watching? Did you go have a look?
Yeah, because I could go on their profile and they were just watching shite, like fucking
Love Island.
I would guess like someone in their 20s just watching sitcoms, basically.
Yeah.
So, a lot like me. But anyway, and then they tried to change my password and I was like, well, you're out.
Don't push so much.
Don't push it. I was willing to let you steal from me.
It's completely unreasonable.
Off my nose.
Jesus. The thieves these days, they don't know when to stop, do they?
I'm like, I am willing to let you have free Netflix if it doesn't adversely affect me. You stealing from Netflix, essentially, does not bother me. That's fine.
Evil corporations are evil. I'm just a guy.
I'm just a dude.
Watching endless reruns of Friends. So just leave me alone. Changing my passwords on me.
Joey's flirting with another sexy lady. Oh, yeah. I wonder if Friends and Things will remain the cultural touchstone in the future.
No, I hope not. Let's move on.
Because kids do. Do you want to actually talk about the film that we're going to talk about?
Well, I'm just looking at the time.
It's going to be a short conversation.
Well, I think imaginatively we have generated another episode of. We are an episode behind because you guys failed to record last week.
I'm sorry. Ross is hiding in the mountains of Afghanistan.
Is that?
It's my fault. It's my fault. I couldn't track him down, Sam.
Was my statement?
I sent people. They had drones.
Was my
flying.
statement
they
incorrect?
Couldn't find him.
Was my statement incorrect?
You also couldn't.
I gave adequate notice that I would not be on last week. Just saying.
If anything, Sam,
I'm also away in 2 weeks' time. So keep that in mind.
Okay, I'm also away for the next 7 out of the next 8 weeks.
In 2 weeks' time, I'll be away. That's
what if I'm away, Sam? What if I'm away?
Then we have a backup, which is what we just recorded. So why don't have you got enough energy to go till 10:30? Or 45 minutes? 10:15.
Well, we could just do like a quick 20 minutes, half an hour. Like, I don't think this film is like a real.
No, but we will do more than that.
Have you really got an hour on this film?
No, but we will do. We'll end up doing 40 minutes probably. You happy with that?
I'm willing to let the dice roll on this one.
That's good. I've had a good conversation. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed talking to you smug cunt.
This is.
I've had a good conversation. I've enjoyed it for once.
Yeah. I've had a great conversation. I've contributed lots. This is what our podcast is going to inevitably merge into, though, isn't it? Because we're like, I can't be asked watching movies anymore. Can you, Dave?
I kind of think we can do both. Like,
yeah.
Hear me out. If we do a movie like this, where we've got a bit to say about it, like, why can't we just talk for half an hour and then fucking get into the movie and do the movie and get out of here? People are tuning in to listen to the sound of our voices. I don't care what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's start reviewing, Sam, presidential elections. We can start with Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson, did he win an election?
This will be the subject to the first episode, Sam. Don't
Kennedy.
Spoil it.
Yeah.
I think he was elected. Yeah, he beat Nixon in 67, I think. Or 66. Unless he didn't, and I'm wrong.
Barry Goldwater.
Who?
He beat Barry Goldwater in 1964.
There you go then.
God. He got 486 electoral votes versus 52.
Fuck me.
61% of the popular vote won the largest share of the popular vote in any candidate since the largely
What was his
uncontested
opponent called? Sorry.
Barry Goldwater. It took office in. Oh, actually, he did the opposite. Gordon Brown. He took office in November '63, and then had a year later the election.
Yes. Who is Barry Goldwater?
God, my God, the Republicans only won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states, and they were like it's all of the slave states and Nevada. Not Nevada.
Do you know what it is?
Nevada?
Goldwater's family was Jewish. That's got to be a factor in America, the most racist country on earth. Although maybe there's a lot of stiff competition in there. We haven't offended Australia yet this episode.
Australia, America, offending Australia, America, Australia, America. I love that joke.
Americans aren't capable of being offended, is the trouble.
No, that's the problem, isn't it? Right, let's do some Dogma. Let me get more wine, I'll do Dogma.
Yes.
We'll do half an hour. Let's do half an hour at least, and then after that,
I think we've got a good half hour. I think after that would be stretching it. Let's not push ourselves, Sam, you know?
Yes.
We're good enough at this.
Yes. Remember when we used to do 2 episodes a night?
Yes, I do. And it was mostly horrible.
Good Lord. I'm going to stop recording. No, I'm not. Shall I?
We'll just do another clap, surely. And then
yeah, let's do
you can find the break.
Just doesn't matter when.
Lovely. Cracking.
I'll see it.
Shall I do the intro? Are we going to split this up, or are we?
Yeah, let's do the intro. Yeah, let's do a normal one.
Are we going to include the bit where I ask if we're doing the intro? Is what the fans want?
No.
You're not going to do any editing.
They want
it out.
They want the Patreon. If they want this gold, they better pay for the Patreon. That's all I'm saying.
If they want my stand up, they're going to have to pay for the Patreon. If we get enough patrons, I will. There'll be a tier. It's Dave launches his stand up career. Tier. Do you give me enough money to quit my job?
Dave quits his job.
I will become a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
I really will. If you give me enough money to subsist, not even do well. If you give me enough money to pay my rent and keep my car on the road, I will become a stand-up comic.
Just $10,000 or $12,000 a month. If the Talking Simpsons guys can do it, we can do it.
They're just piggybacking on Simpsons. If it was talking Flintstones, they wouldn't be making that money.
They're not doing much Simpsons content anymore, are they? It's the 17th round of us talking about the first.
It's why I stopped subscribing to their Patreon, because like they kept fucking teasing, like they did the first season of Drama, and then they were like, "And if you want the second season, you've got to give us more money." I'm like, I'm already giving you fucking £10 a month. What do you want from me?
And they get a lot. They literally get like $12,000 or $13,000 a month. Yeah. So split in half, $6,000 each a month.
Are you going to become a stand-up comic too? Or are you going to be on manager?
I'll be your manager for a cool 17%.
17% is reasonable.
Jesus. Damn it, I should have gone for more.
I thought you were going to say 17. I was like, 17? I'll take
sorry.
that.
Did I say 17? I meant 40.
I meant 110. You pay me more. All of it.
Indentured servitude. Right, let's go.
Right. What year was this film? 1999?
Yes.
Oh, that was a good warm up.
For 54 minutes.
I'm much more energetic than I was 54
I know, I
minutes
feel
ago,
great.
I'll
I
tell
feel
you
great. Let's do it. Let's just fucking do it.
that.
I can do anything.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's slightly late and aborted episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, a podcast where two of us, and sometimes even three of us, if Ross's location can be ascertained, we watch a movie and then we talk about it. My name's David, and I think this is the first movie I've watched on the toilet on YouTube for the podcast.
Yeah, my name's Sam. And in a similar vein, this movie was unaccountably on YouTube in full. I don't understand why.
Well, it's not so unaccountable. So, this week we watched Dogma, the Kevin Smith film from 1999. If you are our age, obviously you love this movie because this is a total, if you're 17, this is your favourite movie.
It's so deep, man. It's such a deep movie. I'm so deep because I know this deep movie, man. Yeah.
I know. So, and you this is your trivia, Sam. It was you who figured this out. We talked about watching Dogma. I'm not sure when it came up, but it wasn't streaming, and it was one of these weird ones. Like Casino is another one we've recently found where not only is it not streaming for free, you can't rent it, and it must be a rights thing.
You can't buy it. You can't buy it digitally. You have to buy the DVD.
I had to buy a DVD.
You did,
and then I had to fucking suffer through a DVD menu.
All of this, and then I did 10 seconds of Googling. I found it, just like Dogma, unaccountably in full on YouTube, in HD. It's been there for like 7 years, and nobody's bothered to take it down.
There's a specific reason why Dogma isn't streaming, of course.
Go on, mystery, acting as if I don't know.
I was kind of leading it into because you was.
Oh right, no.
I'll do the bit.
So basically, this is owned by the Harvey Weinstein. Is that right?
It is. I was reading the production of this movie.
Is that right?
And it's to do with so when Kevin Smith. This is a Kevin Smith movie, obviously, and. If anyone doesn't know, just briefly, Kevin Smith is kind of a weird director in that he went to film school for 4 months, dropped out, sold all of his belongings, and filmed the movie Clerks, basically on what amounted to a big camcorder, cast all of his mates in all of the roles, and maxed out all of his credit cards to do it. It cost him about 30 grand. And it was a huge success and launched his career and everything like that.
Sounds like a great life lesson to me. I'm going to go do that right now.
Well, it just goes to show that, actually,
Hollywood success guaranteed.
If you've got a bit of creativity and you're lucky, basically. Yeah. But essentially, what happened was Kevin Smith made Clerks. I think it made $12 million on a $27,000 budget, which is an insane margin percentage.
So I'm going to just correct you: 27,000, but 3.2 million box office.
Oh, still, I think
very good.
Yeah. Maybe it was Chasing Amy that made 12 million. Anyway, it's not important. And basically Harvey Weinstein had approached Kevin Smith to basically say, I really liked this movie, and I think he tried to buy it, and Kevin Smith basically, I think, said no, because anyway. But they established a relationship where I think they kind of helped him get the money to make Dogma, because he made Mallrats after he made Clerks, and that cost, this is off the top of my head, you don't need to correct me, that cost sort of 3 or 4 million and made fucking nothing. And then Chasing Amy cost a few, I think 750 grand, and made about 10 million or 6 million, something like that. So not huge movies. So I think Weinstein had kind of helped Kevin Smith to get the budget for this movie, because it was a bit higher, quite a lot higher than his previous budgets. What was the budget for this movie, Sam?
The budget for Dogma was, I was just looking at Mallrats, which made 6 million. Cost 6 million, made 2. For Dogma, it's a budget of 10 and a box office of 44. So yeah. and this feels like a 10 million budget. So anyway, Weinstein. Why does Weinstein own this? Tell me why Weinstein owned this.
Basically, because he funded it, I think, and
Jesus
so
Christ.
He owned it, and presumably
then,
he was a professional in the industry and knew that the money he wouldn't make money from box office. He wanted to own it so he could make money from DVD sales.
And then he went to prison. and
Obviously,
was
he's not on YouTube trying to see if his films are being streamed. for free.
exactly, middle. There is nobody's trying to copyright claim this.
Because
Basically, I
nobody
think
is out
is
to defend Harvey Weinstein because, like, he is one of the few men in Hollywood who has been held to account for his crimes. His
yeah, and
decades.
this
of
was put
abuse.
online on the 28th of. I'm just gonna pause a minute while I just compose myself. It was put online on the 28th of November 2019 by the user Russian Cooch Smoocher.
I think that's really in the same vein as this movie. It's
There we go.
There we go.
I mean, presumably, is that Harvey Weinstein's username? Is that makes? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So
She's not Russian.
in Dogma, an abortion clinic worker with a special heritage is called upon to save the existence of humanity from being negated by two renegade angels trying to exploit a loophole and re-enter heaven. Goodness me, that's a long sentence without a comma.
A long movie. What is this? 2 hours 8?
2 hours plus, yeah. So let's talk about Let's talk a little bit. I cannot be bothered getting into the plot of this film.
No,
it's all over the place.
Can we talk about the abortion clinic?
Hold on, I want to talk about a little bit of history first. I want to talk about where you
So the Napoleonic Wars, right?
Yeah.
So the Battle of Talavera.
So the flooding of the Nile. No,
That's at least tangentially related. It's biblical.
it is. There we go. Moses, Red Seas. So you mentioned it already a little bit. You alluded to it in that this is a film, I think, that as a younger man, read idiot. I watched this.
Are idiots, but
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah, I watched this when I was 15 or 16. When I watched almost an unaccountable amount of films. Like when someone says to me, "Have you seen this?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like Schindler's List. I'm like, yeah, I've seen Schindler's. I don't remember almost anything about it because I watched it 15 or 16 years ago. Like it's so far away, but I have seen it, and I do have like a vague memory. And also, I'm never going to watch Schindler's List as an adult.
No. I've got a bit here though, Sam. I'm just derailing you entirely. You know, we were talking about stand-up comedy earlier, right? What is it about teenage men? I know what it is, so it's fine. But what is it about teenage boys?
What's the
where you've got to agree that you've done or seen everything. Someone asks you a question like, "Did you ever fuck the Sultan of Timbuktu?" And you're like, "Yeah, I fucked the Sultan of Timbuktu. Yeah, of course, yeah." Like, you have to agree to everything. You can never be perceived to be
as being wrong,
lack knowledge or experience. So every 15-year-old boy has shagged 50 women, has invaded fucking Nepal. You know,
even though not having an experience is probably the single most common trait of a 15-year-old. Like, unless it's playing video games and masturbating, you don't have a lot going on.
But yeah, and it's toxic masculinity where teenage boys feel the need to like, oh, if I let these guys know that I'm not like an accomplished and I
also know how to use every single power tool known to man.
Exactly.
But,
like if I don't have that in my if I let these people know one thing, if I tell them I am not like an accomplished urbane adult with, you know, lots of experiences, they are gonna fucking rip me to shreds and throw me in the street.
And that's why, as a 16-year-old, I watched Citizen Kane, and
that was a great punchline. Is there a better movie to watch because you're a prick when you're 16? Not that it's not a great movie. I wouldn't know. I've not seen it. But like, is there more?
You never seen Citizen Kane?
We do this every week.
It's a great joke.
We can't do this again.
You're going to go watch Citizen Kane right after this. I'll send you my DVD of Citizen Kane.
And I'll get it somehow right after this.
On YouTube in full. So, anyway, my point being, though, is that this is one of those films. And you're very true there. It's very true what you're saying. And that's why I actually was like, no, I want to watch films. I really got into, like, just being at the, right into movies. It was a great part of my life. And many years later gave me the knowledge and vast experience to be able to talk authoritatively about movies on this podcast. But Dogma was one of those films, and it was one of those films I think I had seen Clerks. I saw Clerks afterwards. So this was my first entry into Kevin Smith, and I really liked this as a kid. I thought it was clever. I thought it was like exploring something in a relatively original way. And actually, to be fair, I think the film mostly holds up in that regard. Where it falls apart is more to me like the technical filmmaking, like the stuff where once you do gain that experience, what you have you've not studied film necessarily, but you've learned enough to get into the gubbins of what works and what works about stories and structures. And you think, actually, that's my biggest problem with this movie. It's not necessarily what it's saying, which is all the religion stuff is an interesting take. It's novel. I cannot have another fucking library scene where they all sit down and talk about the minutiae of the Bible. I mean, there must be double figures scenes in this movie where they all sit around a table going, "Oh man, that's crazy." So, and then Deuteronomy 7, and then Methuselah rookie cards. Like, what is going on? Like, it's just
kind of the trouble
endless.
Where, like, obviously the people who made this and Kevin Smith, like, they have a much deeper knowledge of the Bible than we do. We're quite a secular nation as a rule, and like maybe you lose some of the humor there. There is a lot of library scenes. For me, the problem I find with this movie, yes, I think the filmmaking is actually quite poor. I think that this is, as far as innovative filmmaking, I'm not sure this even remotely counts, because I just think it's very workmanlike. It's fine for the most part, but there's not, this isn't like a directorial triumph. But the biggest problem I have is how shallow it is. The main character works at an abortion clinic. That's an interesting thing for a lapsed Catholic and a practicing Catholic to do. Mm-hmm. And like the whole film's about the Catholic Church and the Catholic religion, and like she works in an abortion clinic. That's interesting. We could maybe explore that in the dichotomy of like, oh, we pro anti-abortion. We don't necessarily have to say, but like, let's explore abortion a bit. Film isn't interested. Nah, fucking forget about it, mate. Oh, the Catholic Church and like the disgusting the way they based the George Carlin, who George Carlin, George Carlin. He's the the Archbishop or the Bishop or whoever. He's like soulless Buddy Christ, and we're going to make church sexier and more like McDonald's to make money.
Catholicism, like, wow.
There is something to be explored there. In the American consumerism could infect the Catholic Church, and we could have more like, I wanted more jokes about selling indulgences and like fucking drive-through confession. And obviously the film didn't have the budget for that, but like I wanted a harder sort of mass commercialism affects the church thing. And again, the film's kind of like, we're not really interested in that. What they actually want to tell you about is fucking really dry, like scholarly fucking Bible history. And it's like, no, actually, maybe let's like explore these themes that we've established, and then we can have this like, no, we've got to talk about fucking Jesus's family tree and the fact that Jesus was black. Again, pretty funny. We drop that immediately. Like, there's loads of stuff in this movie where you kind of like, you've got your hooks into it, Kevin Smith, and for whatever reason you felt you couldn't go harder, or you just didn't think, you thought that would sacrifice some of the comedy. But you could make this so much better if it was more relevant. And like, that's what struck me watching it now, because I also loved this as a teenager. I thought it was clever. I thought it was funny. I thought it was edgy, because when you're a teenager, everything has to be edgy. We're offending people. We're offending the people. Oh yeah.
There is a big element of that, isn't there? And I think, as being, I didn't grow up in a religious household, but I went to a Church of England school and all that stuff, or Church of Wales school. So it really was like, Church of Wales. Yeah, who knows? You see all of that, and you're kind of like, well, this is my antidote to that. And as a completely and utterly irreligious person, I agree with almost all of it. Except actually the film is, to me, and to your point, it's a film about Kevin Smith clearly working through his own religious doubts, curiosities, etc. I really genuinely wonder if he considers himself spiritual, not necessarily, doesn't believe in a god or God, whatever.
This is a very agnostic film in that way, isn't it?
It's not. So on one side, it's not going like, "Look at you idiots worshipping a fake man in the sky," which is a very teenage boy thing to consider. Not that I think that's wrong, to be fair, but also,
the teenage boys, right?
just on this one thing, but also it's also like it's quite reverent of all this. Now, anyway, I sidetracked myself. My point was though that there's too much going on in this, and so that's when we lose the focus. We've got all of these things that you've mentioned there, all of these ideas that are kind of like brought together, mashed into this big pot and stirred around through 4 or 5 library scenes when they talk about things around a table. And then the film's kind of like throws away 2 of them, leaves one there, ignores one for 40 minutes and then comes back to it. And you're like, what was that thing? It just completely, like, there's no discipline. There's no discipline to say, this is what we want to focus on. We've got Matt Damon and the other one doing, yeah. I knew his name, Dave. The other one. We've got Matt Damon and the other one doing their thing
Batman?
of like,
how dare you?
Former
Batman.
They need to get into heaven by like, and you think, oh, okay, I'm already confused. So there's like an arch.
Time, Sam.
There's an arch they go through,
confusing.
and God can't stop this, even though He's omnipotent, and so because man made this, and so God has to, like, it doesn't, like, okay, fine. No, we don't have time. Move on.
Somebody, Sam, thinking they're really clever, and like it's based on a contradiction in the Bible.
We don't have time.
Whole thing, and it's
the movie doesn't have time. Move on.
It's so complicated. The movie does have time, Sam, because every scene is them sat around a table in a diner or a strip club or a train or a fucking Mexican restaurant or like another diner, like discussing this. The whole movie is them sitting around a table somewhere talking about this. There's very little else in this movie.
Yeah.
If it's not them sitting around a table, you've got the bad guys sitting around the table or the other bad guys sitting around the table.
They're all sitting around, and then the shit monsters throw things at them.
Might be the most abhorrent thing in this entire movie.
It's absolutely bad.
If not Selma Hayek, who's for some reason in this movie, like, so that they can talk about her tits, and for very little other reason other than to be a fucking MacGuffin later on.
I know.
It's Chekhov's muse. She's come back to tell us how to solve the thing. Great.
Wow, Chekhov muse looks great. So Linda Fiorentino, though, she's got her thing of like she's the protagonist in theory of like how. So she's doubting herself. So as you say, she's a Catholic woman who works in an abortion clinic, and again,
and there's something.
There's another thread.
There's another movie where like this woman can explore some of these issues, but obviously this is made by and I'm sure Kevin Smith has grown and matured since, although he is still making Jay and Silent Bob movies, so maybe not.
He hasn't.
But like, this is a young man making a movie, and so he's not interested in it. This woman's like emotional arc is just non-existent.
Yes.
No,
yeah,
sorry. It isn't non-existent, Sam. At the end, she gets a baby.
Yeah.
What do women want? Babies.
Babies. And nothing else. It is a confusing. It's a confusing. Again, it's a confusing part of this movie because it's another thread that doesn't really feel like it fits in with the rest of it, and that's where I struggle with this film. Is that we've got all of these discordant ideas, all vaguely heading in different directions, and sometimes they converge, and sometimes they kind of like. You get a moment where you think, oh, they're trying to tie things together, like the baby thing, Fiorentina's plot, Jay and Silent Bob kind of just want to have sex with women. That's fine. I guess that's just what I do. Okay, that's fine. I mean, the puerile nature of that really hits me now. I'm like, I think even as a 15-year-old, I didn't think that this was that funny. Like, please stop. Please stop.
I mean, it's funny on the face of it, But I've
Is
watched,
it?
it is. I've watched quite a lot of Kevin Spacey movies. I was really into. I had like when I was a teenager.
Kevin
I had
Smith.
this
Kevin
phase.
Kevin
What?
Smith movies. You just said Kevin Spacey. Not incorrect
I
that you
didn't
watched
actually
lots of.
say Kevin Spacey, did I?
You did, yeah.
Oh, I
Check
meant
the
Kevin.
records.
I also had the thing for Kevin Spacey movies, but
That's a whole nother level of yeah.
I had this like, and I will say brief thing. We had this older friend at school who was like, I think she just finished uni, and obviously she, being that much older, had watched a lot of these movies as they came out. So kind of like was like, oh, these are great, blah blah blah. So I'd seen Clerks, I'd seen Mallrats, which I actually liked as a teenager. So Chasing Amy, which I think is his best film. I think I've probably even seen Jersey Girl, which is one of the more depressing films where Ben Affleck's a single father because his wife has died. Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. Like, I'd seen a lot of these movies when I watched Dogma for the first time. And Jane Silent Bob are kind of like, they've got more to do in the other movies. More to do, but they're on the screen less, if that makes sense. Like, they're actually... when they're on screen, they're doing something that's relevant. In Mallrats, they kind of exist to be like somebody listened to be a distraction in this mall, and that's kind of like why they're in the movie, and then they're out of the movie. You know, Chasing Amy, I think they're briefly in it. You know, it's whereas this them being in the main cast, but also then having nothing to contribute to being in the main cast.
Yeah, they get a couple of hit shots, don't they, later on, where they
fucking get out of your movies, directors. Get the fuck out of your movies. Tarantino as well. I don't want to see your face. Get behind that camera. You're a director.
I love the bile and vitriol.
No, because Tarantino, I think, is perhaps worse because at least Kevin Smith is playing this same character and blah blah blah, and he's not talking a lot. Tarantino basically fucking stops his movie dead to be like, "Hey, look, it's me," and I'm like, "Fucking, what?" And then he's a director again. I like his movies, but just get off the screen.
Yeah.
You've hired actors for this. You're not an actor, so you've hired it. You outsourced that, and then you're fucking on the screen anyway.
And also, Tarantino, your chin is just so distracting. I just can't, like, every character just has this absolutely massive chin. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't point it out, but it completely destroys the movie for me. Because I'm just like, who's that guy with a massive chin?
Between
Why is he?
Tarantino, his chin, and the amount of feet, the amount of ladies' feet in Tarantino movies, it's amazing that they're successful and I can watch them and enjoy them genuinely. That man has a foot fetish, genuinely.
Barefoot again.
100%. 100%, Sam. He hasn't got.
Why is she taking her shoes off to go through the broken glass factory? Like,
because Tarantino likes seeing them pinkies. That's why.
Do it now.
Yeah. Take those shoes off.
Other things in this, then we've got
feet and Tarantino. What an astounding pair.
Moving on. Don't want to think about that. Other things.
Horrible.
Other things in this. We've also got Snape, Severus Snape, the actor who plays him.
The cast in this is insane.
What's his name? Jesus Christ. Alan Rickman. We got Alan Rickman in this.
Alan Rickman. That's a family joke.
It is, yeah. Who is doing? I think doing like he's doing his best to add a level of groundedness to this movie.
It's also quite funny, I thought. I
think he's great. I think I would put this into things that I like, things that I really enjoyed about Dogma, and even on a rewatch, I'm like, every time he's on screen, he has a funny bit to say. He's lovely and sarcastic. Was Alan Rickman? Did he have a London accent? Like he seems to have like some kind of southern. I don't know what accent he has. I think I've been watching Harry Potter.
He's doing that. I would term it that accent that Americans expect British people to have.
That's what I thought, but I haven't watched an interview with
Alan
Rickman in a while.
A Cockney adjacent accent.
Ish. Anyway, so other Chris Rock, fabulous performance. Love it. He again funny, light, but also he's kind of like he's a bit more grounding, and that's I think that helps the movie. The movie settles down.
He's the only character with an actual motivation in this movie, Sam, aside from the fucking Wonder Twins. Like, Jesus was black, and he feels maligned as a black man for being left out of the Bible. Oh, let's explore that. That's interesting. Thinking white people ruining religion for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at like how the representations of Jesus, especially now in America or whatever else, he's always a white guy. Buddy Christ. Buddy Christ is an amazing joke. I love that joke.
Dead on. It's so.
It's such a good meme. That has lived on in a meme. But again, Chris Rock is good in this. Carlin's good. All of that is fun. Like the actual character.
I could have stood more Janine Garofalo, to be honest. She's in this movie for one scene.
Yes. There's lots of those kind of like.
You can't help but think that Kevin Smith basically got this enormous budget, bigger than any budget he'd ever had before, and was like, "Well, who can I get?" It really feels like that because so much of this budget must have gone on like the cast.
I'm gonna hire all my friends.
Not only have you got Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, fucking 2 years after they did Good Will Hunting, arguably before they both became like legitimate leading men. Like this is the height of their power as like a double act, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do have a great. They have a, and what am I trying to say? All through the film, you get the ability of all the cast. I think is presented really well. You know, they're all given a relatively good amount to do, and they all pretty much deliver that. But again, we go back to, I think the criticism is that it's also fractured. It's so unorganized. There's so much of it that you kind of I think it all gets lost. You know, if I would have to say, let's start culling characters. Let's just start removing characters. Sorry, Salma Hayek. I actually think she's a great actress. I love her,
and she's fun in this. She's fun.
She's light. But what are you here to do? What are you here to do? Chris Rock basically can do everything that she does, or get rid of Chris Rock. I don't mind either way. I just think you need one. You need one character who's there to like explain things and say, "Listen, sweetheart, like this is what we need to do," and that's what the.
I think you could also get rid of Jason Lee and these hockey players. I think the Ben Affleck character could be the bad guy.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, they're the antagonists, and then it's a great little turn at the end when Matt Damon realizes, oh shit, this is worse than he's gone. He is gone. He's just throwing people down now. Like he's having a great time. Like that unit that they create does not need all of these different inputs, and then we get the shit monster just barging in. You're like,
bring in the Jason Lee character and these hockey dickheads to then kill them off before they've really done anything except had like several library scenes with various characters. Well, and it's like
the one thing they do at the start.
You probably cut 20 minutes from this.
Yeah, the one thing that they do, man, their role is to kill God or put God in a coma. And
this could be Ben Affleck, couldn't it?
It could be Ben Affleck. Like it could be he trips, and Ben Affleck realizes this and says, "Shit, God's gone." I tried to talk to him and there's no one there. Like it's all of these complexities that run through, and it's the bit that I think you don't necessarily notice maybe in the first watch. Once you watched it a couple of times, you start to really feel like, wow, we could move this forward a lot quicker, and we could cut out a lot of this shit without having to do much work. Like, and that's the thing that I think that always makes sense when you're, whether it's in the editing process or whether it's in the script writing process, is just say it simpler. You know, like I write things all the time. That's my job, is to write things in a short, snappy way. And if you can remove 3 words and say the same thing, do that every single time, because if you need to add more words in, like you can be a bit sugary and add some stuff in there if you want to elaborate a little bit more. But really, if you can say it in 3 words, then do that. And that's what this film.
And you'd free up screen time. And this movie, I think this movie in 90 minutes would be much more palpable.
Yeah.
And also, you'd save some money to like do a better job of this end fight scene, which it just honestly looked cheap. The costumes look cheap. The effects look cheap. You've got your main cast members and no extras. Like,
well, yeah.
Again, it feels quite anticlimactic. It also goes on for four fucking hours until Alanis Morissette comes out. as God. Again, like, please take that money, pay a stunt coordinator, please.
It's there's so much weirdness, isn't there? There is
I'm amazed
so
they got Alan
much.
Rickman to do that crotch prosthetic. Like, out of all the people who are angels in this movie, I'm amazed that it's Alan Rickman. They're like, right, well, he
That
has to get
cost
his pants down now,
$110,000, and they had to pay him every penny of it.
Yeah, it was money well earned on Alan Rickman's part. He earned every penny in this movie.
That's horrible, sweaty crotch prosthetic.
Why is it so sweaty? Why are the sweat guys in Hollywood so hot for sweat?
It's a sweat lobby. That's why.
Damn
Alan's Rickman. Like, let's just. This is. But his Alan Rickman's junk had to be like taped back.
Someone had to do that. Someone's job
to create like that smooth mound, like a Ken doll, as they say in the film. Like, oh, it's a
strange decision. It's a really
put that on my gravestone. I taped back Alan Rickman's junk for Dogma.
The great Alan Rickman. Why wasn't it Jason Lee? He's a guy. You fucking, he'll do that for free. Matt Damon at this point, Ben Affleck. They're nobodies. They're just young guys. You got Alan Rickman, the actor.
Have some respect.
It's baffling. And do you know what? That is why Alan Rickman is I think the best thing in this movie is because they got him to do that and because he's so silly.
He's up for a lot, isn't he? He's up for a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about...
It's a refreshing performance from quite an otherwise quite serious actor, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about this this final scene, because as we've said, I have no interest in pulling through the plot of this because it is so just... It's quite wild when you consider all of the different things happen. The sequencing takes quite a lot of time to get there. We have the introduction of the Metatron, Alan Rickman.
That's one of the only names from the actual Bible I googled it because I thought that sounds really stupid.
Yeah,
the Metatron is the
isn't
one.
Isn't that
hyperlink on Wikipedia? It's from the Old Testament. It's an actual name.
Isn't that
the
name of Thanos' weapon? Isn't that
exactly like fucking right? So is he with Optimus Prime or is he is he an Autobot or a Decepticon? Decepticon. Is he a Decepticon? He sounds like a Decepticon.
Must be. Metatron.
No, this is the actual one, and I'm like, guys, you don't have to
grab the gravity cube
quite so accurately. The angels can just have names like, oh, we're in the 21st century Catholic Church now. We all have. I'm John, and I'm fucking Bob, and I'm what's a Catholic name?
Yeah, not Loki, which again is obviously Marvel has just poisoned everything, isn't it? Even religion isn't immune to the cultural osmosis that is Marvel. So we've got the introduction of these guys. We've got the introduction of Christ. What's the face? What's the cat? What's Bethany Sloan, played by Linda Fiorentino. So we've got all that. We've got Serendipity and the Muse. We've got the 13th Apostle and Rufus, Chris Rock. We've got the shit monster. All this is happening. We have the train where they all kind of like talk to each other and don't realize what's going on. Blah, blah, blah. Middle. Now they're in New Jersey and like the universe is going to end, but God can't save any of this. Like, surely God can do this until they realize that he was down playing skee ball. And, oh, by the way, Bethany is the last scion. Jesus' like most recent relative. What? Okay, carry on. I'm with you. The
movie spends 20 minutes telling us angels don't have dicks, and Mary.
She's the last scion. Yeah.
Joseph and Mary fucked. That's right.
Yeah. And then like they confront the priest or whatever the hell he is, and they manage to Christ. Jason Lee.
Let's not.
No, because I just I'm getting to something here because then we've got Jason Lee who's here like doing his thing, but then he dies, and then There's like a whole fucking, and then they're at the bit at the end, the final scene where all of this comes to fruition and culminates. And this is to me is where you're absolutely right. You said it already. All of the stuff that comes before, all of the boring shit that I've just listed, kind of doesn't matter. None of it matters. None of it matters. Number one, Bethany's the chosen one. Number two, these guys want to they want to get the Holy Grail and whatever else. The rest of the gang are going to come along, obviously, because they're there. But we could get rid of so much of this and we still have the same ending. And that's what makes the relative weakness of the ending so confusing, because it is just like, this is it.
It's not good setup and payoff, is it?
No.
Like, the whole movie is set up and none of it pays off.
Yeah, a basic rule in filmmaking, which we've explored before.
Yeah.
Why don't you like this ending then? What is it about? Like, you mentioned the production.
It's all so much fluff. I don't think it looks very good. I don't think there's a good sense of scale. They uses an Uzi to shoot off Ben Affleck's wings, and then Ben Affleck's a human, and I'm like, right, so fucking get in a car and run him over. It's like none of it makes any logical sense, which is fine, but it's also kind of hard to understand where all the pieces are moving to and from. The fact that the hospital's just over the road and we're going to save God, or kill God rather, it's very confusing. When did the main character get shot? Why is she dying? I don't understand that either. And it's kind of like maybe like its taste of like what's funny. Like, you can be funny or you can have an action scene, and they kind of try to do both, and they don't sell either.
The example being when Jay and Bethany jump behind they're hiding from Ben Affleck, and he starts whipping his trousers off because she said at some point early in the movie, which the movie expects you to remember, if you were the last person on Earth, or if the world was ending, then I'd have sex with you. And he's like, right, there we go. And you're like, nope. You see what that joke is there? That's a tension killer. You just destroyed all the tension.
Yeah,
which
and
even in this comedy movie, you still need.
None of the other characters are under any fucking threat of violence whatsoever. Like, what's everyone else doing? They all got the phones. Well, not in 1999, but they were all fucking like sat reading the newspaper while we're having
looking at their pages,
barricade it. And it's like, again, I just don't think it's a particularly competently made scene. Then it's basically all resolved when they kill God and God comes back and fucking makes everything right again. And you're like, again. You could have ended the movie in minute 5 by having fucking, someone knocking this cable in this hospital room, and it just doesn't add up. Also, America isn't keeping a homeless man alive on fucking life support for several days.
Who's paying for that? Who's paying?
He hasn't got medical insurance.
You know what it is? It's rules of the movie, isn't it? And that's something we talk about a lot. Because it's important, because you kind of have to have consistent, understandable, believable rules of your film. Now, the problem is that the rules of the movie are also the rules of organized religion, which is really confusing and quite complicated and ends up being a bit silly. And that's where I think maybe we're hitting up against, the brick wall of like, there's too much dogma in this. There's too much going on. There's too much. They
stick to it too closely, I think, because they assume that that's where the humor is going to come from. Actually, the humor should maybe come from comedy. There are bits,
but it's all very laboured, isn't it?
Movie. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it, and I didn't come away from it like I did when I was a teenager, thinking it was clever and it made me think about things, and maybe that says more about the more secular culture we live in now, maybe, than 99.
Mm-hmm. I did like the actual bit where God turns up, though, and it's Alanis Morissette, and you're like, wow. That's...
4 reasons.
Okay. I like the message of that all the way through them. It's quite a mean movie, isn't it, generally? And a lot of Kevin Smith movies are, in that sense. He's got an axe to grind, and he's got like a bit of a subversive take to have. But when it comes to the actual ending and God's picking flowers, and she is quite a chilled out happy-go-lucky person who is like I like the wonder and awe that comes from that, and you think, and I also think that must be quite comforting to think that that's the end point. Like, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, it ends up being quite a nice moment, but it doesn't necessarily reflect all the other things that happen through the film, and it feels discordant, out of place by itself in a way that kind of sours it. You think, if we'd managed to collect that little drop of sundew or whatever that makes that nice feeling run through the movie, and maybe Fiorentina has a connection to that somehow, a bit more apparently, that she feels disconnected, but also she also feels like there's something there, that feeling of what, God looking down upon you and being, and you feeling at ease. Like she's yearning for that. She's searching for it. She's dead through most of that scene anyway. So
there's also something here where, like, what I maybe would have liked in fixing the movie a little bit, is what's always confused me about the Bible, is this juxtaposition of Jewish God, as we'll refer to him, Old Testament God, and New Testament God, where, like, and they kind of say a bit about this in the movie, where Loki is kind of like, he's the avenging angel and such, and we kind of talk a bit about gods being like, right, we'll go and smite them all. And what would have been maybe a nice conclusion for me is maybe a realization or some sort of explanation that, like, God tried to be the sort of God who got involved and stopped floods and saved people and fucking burned down towns full of people who were having homosexual sex, because that's what God's into.
God is obsessed with it. He just wants to know every single detail. He wants to look at it closely, carefully, to make sure he knows what's going on.
And the eye for an eye stuff, and that basically the upshot of it could be, and you could have Alan Rickman who
real
deliver
Old Testament shit, Your Honor.
Like, you lean more into the Old Testament shit, and you say, and the world starts to go like that, like fucking, because Loki is taking on that position of fucking just taking revenge.
Dogs living together.
And you say, exactly, and you have Alan Rickman say at the end, basically, like, and God decided, enough was enough when they killed his son. The Pharisees killed his son. Like, God realized that, like, interfering on Earth directly, that that caused more harm, more chaos, blah 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 blah.
God damn, we are rewriting the Bible amazingly right now.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be a fantastic, like, resolution of Christianity and also this film, where maybe we could have Bethany is the main character. Sorry, is it?
Yeah,
we're gonna have Bethany kind of come to that realization, and, like, it feels cheap to, like, have the reward that Bethany gets, not some sort of enlightenment, a fucking baby. She gets to be a single mother. Like, and
18 years of shit and vomit.
Really cheap. Like, oh, you've saved the world, you've done all of this, and what do you get? You get to have a baby with no father.
Something that they mention 3 times, I think, that she had a husband and then she couldn't get married, and so she left him. She left her. Sorry, he left her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so all of that happens. Now there's, like, people raise kids by themselves all the time. There's not, but it's more that just doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel earned. You mentioned before we get lots of setup. I think in this point they don't really even set that up very much, and so all of a sudden, woof, you're pregnant, and it feels a bit like, oh, did she ask for that? Oh, is that really what she wanted? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I like the idea of connecting the story of, like, Jesus to this woman and making her.
And you could still have it be. You could still have it be funny. Like, you don't have to take out the Rickman. You should take out the shit monster, but you'd have to take out, like, the Rickman crotch shot, or even the Salma Hayek stuff. Honestly, like, maybe take out the shit monster. But you can still have all the nonsense in it, and maybe just be a bit more. Either that, or you go full on and lay into the church to the extent that you get boycotted even more than it was.
Even more than it was.
The Catholic Church didn't speak out against this movie, but the Catholic League did protest outside some theatres.
I think they protest because it's Wednesday, to be fair, so I'm not sure that it's...
Well, the telling thing is that the Catholic Church didn't say anything. And the Catholic Church, they don't like to be bad-mouthed, and they obviously looked at this and said, we're not really being bad-mouthed, because they're not.
They looked at it and said, Kevin, who?
We're doing worse shit than this every day of the week, Kevin. You haven't mentioned child molestation once.
Oh, that really got me. And it's accurate as well.
That's why it's funny.
That's why it's funny, exactly. Oh, there we go. I think we've ranted about this film enough now. But you know what? Self-reflection. That's what, to me, this film represents. This is a film of self-reflection to go, actually, I thought this was, I didn't think it was amazing and a great, you should definitely watch. Have you've never seen Citizen K? I didn't think of it at that level. But what I did think is that I think it held up in my head more than it did in reality.
Yeah. When we talked about watching this, I was kind of looking forward to watching it because I remembered liking it. I didn't remember loving this movie. It was never my favorite movie, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was.
But you watched it a couple of times, more than once.
Yeah, I watched it more than once because it's that Kevin Smith dialogue that's kind of delivered at breakneck pace and is not hard to follow, but is like teenagers talking to each other. It's the reason Kevin Smith has a career is because of this dialogue, and that's in this movie, which makes it really rewatchable.
Yeah, and it's that, and it's that level
anymore,
of.
Maybe. Not anymore. Not rewatchable anymore. Maybe. I don't see me going back to this one, to be honest.
You know what it is. Just like when you're younger, you'll read any old shit. You'll read the Beano, you'll read comic books, you'll progress.
Back of the shampoo bottle if it's a particularly long bowel movement.
I think it's about your taste develop, you become a bit attuned to what you like. And we watch films for a podcast, and not that it's difficult, but it's Sunday night and you're tired. Fucking don't waste my time. Do not waste my time. And so many movies, the movies we hate are the ones that waste our time, that are boring. And this wasn't necessarily boring, but it got really close at certain
It's certainly on kind of the down end of that spectrum, isn't it? Where this is closer to the boring, I'm going to turn this off and pull my imaginary podcast ripcord, than it is to the a film we can talk about really coherently for. It's not the ring.
Yeah, and it's not even about
3 hours of podcast easy.
It's not even about length. We'll sit and watch Interstellar 5 times a week. There's films that are well made, and that's actually what I loved about watching this in some ways, is that it really made me feel like our, not that we're great or anything, but our grasp of course we are. Our grasp of the technical has improved, I think, even in the 2 years that we've been doing this. Because there's elements where I think, cut that shot there, cut it now. Go back and cut there, because you are wasting my time. You're wasting the audience's time, and it doesn't add anything to your themes and to your subject matter.
And
your
hindsight's 2020, isn't it?
It is, but that's what film criticism is about, and that's why I enjoyed that whole process of
why films like this are good to watch. Most of the time. And then sometimes.
But if you're 15,
I think Ross wanted to watch fucking The Grey Man, the fucking Ryan Gosling spy thriller.
The film that's trying to single-handedly save Netflix from bankruptcy. Click is my answer to that.
Just to be clear, he means click off, not click on. It's
click off.
Very unclear bit he started doing. It's an
American Dad bit. And the sooner you realise that, Dave, the sooner you keep up with my comedic genius that I've stolen from somewhere else, the sooner we'll be on better footing.
All great artists. Plagiarised it from someone else.
Great artists steal and use it for their podcast.
Which has no viewers and makes no money. Do you think,
it is.
As a last note before we go, because I've got a bottle of wine downstairs that's singing to me.
I don't mind.
I know. But do you think, when we are rich and successful on our podcast, that all these episodes will have aged really poorly? Or will we still be making jokes about how we don't make any money and we have no subscribers when we have tens of subscribers?
I think that we should 100% carry on making those jokes, even when we... I think we should also talk about our fake Patreon forever. Even when we do have a Patreon, we can talk about the imaginary Patreon. I think we should just always do that.
Imagiron.
I think if
I'm gonna
any,
workshop that. I'll take that. I'll take that.
yeah,
to a
you do that
focus
offline. If anything,
group. That came out straight away. Fucking business meeting head.
if anything, if the total lack of audience and engagement in this podcast if that's taught me anything, is that we should just continue exactly what we're doing with absolutely no self-reflection whatsoever. Take that
Except
to the bank.
Self-reflection 20 years ago. In 20 years, we will self-reflect on this podcast like we self-reflect now on movies we watched 20 years ago. Really
Yeah. But then we'll have money, so who cares?
Fucking, that's what we keep getting told, but no one's giving me any money, Sam.
Sorry, Dave. We break it up. See you later, mate. Cheers. Bye. 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 That's an ending.
And that was good, I think.
I think it was. And what did we start? That's a good 45 minutes. Exactly what we predicted.
Same. That's 2 episodes.
2 episodes.
And it didn't feel like it, I think. Because
in 1 hour 45. Because I'm drunk.
I'm sober as a judge. I'm just funny.
You know what, actually,
I really enjoy us just talking nonsense about things we want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, I would really like to explore that further. I think that works really well.
I think we should invest 20 minutes and just say we're going to stream. We are not talking about the movie for 20 minutes, and we just, whatever comes out of it comes out of it. And if we go on, if we hit 20 minutes and then we stop, we move on, fine. Or if we do an hour like we did just there.
I used to listen to We Have Concerns, and that was 20 minutes, and they would just pick a subject and just ramble, and it was great. Nice, short, bite-sized little things. Not necessarily we even have to like put it into a podcast form. But I just think it like the film. When we talk about the film, it's always better when we've. Do you know what I mean? When we go in dry, it's never good.
No, or it takes us 20 minutes to get there, and that means 20 minutes of turgid.
No one's ever going to listen to it because fucking it's boring for 20 minutes.
Yeah, but that was really fun. That was really fun. And we've got, again, we've just caught ourselves up. We're at 2 episodes. Look at that.
Who needs Ross?
Who needs Ross? And Joe as well. Me and you, Dave, we could take this podcast to the bank, and we will be.
Traitorous. Is it traitorous for me to say that we haven't missed Joe whatsoever? It's horrible. I mean, not, but he just never seemed that interested.
I'm just going to clip this and send it directly to him.
Don't. I'm a bit worried about Joe. He's been very quiet.
We are live, remember. We are still live.
Oh, shit.
It's just. Right, we'll end it there. Joe's fine. Everything's fine.
Joe's fine. Don't worry about Joe.